Imanzi 105.1 FM twese hamwe birashoboka. Buri wese abigize ibye twatsinda burundu akarengane na ruswa. U Rwanda ruzira ruswa n'akarengane mu cyerekezo 2050. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM. Gusesagura n'ubupfapfa. Zirikana ko iyo mbimenya ari ijambo ribi maze ukoreshe neza imari yawe. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
Tuned to Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. Rwanda has pledged $3,250,000 towards replenishing the global fund, representing an increase of 30% of the country's contribution to the fund. Rwanda's exports in value have increased by 37.2% in the first 6 months of 2022, mainly driven by strong domestic manufacturing activities and the opening up of borders in line with economic recovery. African leaders are using the ongoing United Nations General Assembly to push for an end to a 2-decade-long Western sanctions against Zimbabwe, arguing that they are hurting ordinary people in the region. Welcome back. News in detail. Rwanda has pledged $3,250,000 towards replenishing the global fund, representing an increase of 30% of the country's contribution to the fund. The Global Fund is an international financing and partnership organization that aims to attract, leverage, and invest additional resources to end the epidemics like AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. President Paul Kagame took part in the fund's 7th replenishment meeting held at the margins of the UN General Assembly, where more than $14.25 billion has been raised so far to sustain this fund for the next 3 years. Donald Kabeduka, the chair of the Global Fund Board, opened the conference by noting that the world has demonstrated that HIV, malaria, and TB can be conquered by science, leadership, and a critical mass of resources. Lady Rosalind Morota, vice chair of the Global Fund Board, says the fund's success is rooted in its partnership made up of governments, international agencies, private companies, civil society, and community organizations working together all at the table and a vital part of the Global Fund's governance. She noted that what sets it apart from other global health initiatives is its commitment to put communities at the center and advance health equity by removing human rights and gender-related barriers. The Speaker of Parliament, Donatil Mukabadisa, has called on young people to stand up and fight hate speech and genocide ideology in the quest to build sustainable peace and unity. She was speaking at a youth parliamentary dialogue organized by the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagements, working together with Never Again Rwanda and partners. The dialogue was organized in line with the celebration of the International Day of Peace. It brought together over 500 participants, including young people from different districts, parliamentarians, peace-building actors, policy makers, and development partners to discuss strategies and approaches to uphold unity as they tackle hate speech in different forms as a hindrance to Rwandan unity. Mukabalisa said that in most cases, those who took a line to fight Rwanda by spreading hate speech and genocide ideology, as well as denying the genocide against the Tutsi, use social media and are supported by people who don't wish the country any good. Hence, she urged the youth to use the same channels to tell the truth, sharing the good vision of the country. She also reminded the young people that the unity of Rwandans is the strength of the nation. Jean Damascene Bizimana, Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagements, urged the young people to not fear those who sow hate and conflict, declaring that one of the mitigations to that is that in Rwanda, the youth are taught to live together, peace and unity, and are supported by the country's leadership to fulfill their ambitions. He added that the tragic history that our country went through must inspire young people to join efforts and correct the mistakes of the past. The government is ready to support them, be their role model, provide security and work with them to promote peace. The UN Interagency Task Force and the World Health Organization Special Program on Primary Health Care have awarded Rwanda NCD Alliance in recognition of the organization's work in building multi-sectoral collaboration on non-communicable diseases in Rwanda. The alliance brings together several civil society groups that are geared towards fighting and prevention of non-communicable diseases. The NCD Alliance was also awarded for supporting the establishment of the National NCD Multi-Sector Coordination Committee and by assisting the government in implementing the National Strategy and Costed Action Plan for Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases. The strategy outlines how 358 billion Rwandan francs will be used during the period 2020-2025 to guide action in tackling non-communicable diseases through 4 strategic objectives. The strategy is expected to strengthen the existing centralization and integration of NCD services as well as the universal health coverage system, allowing NCD care to reach all individuals and communities across the country. Traders in Kabarondo Market have commended Kayonza District for constructing a new market. The traders expect to benefit from the new market that is being built in terms of trading and the appearance of new infrastructure in Kabarondo's commercial center. According to Imanzi John Bosco, the mayor of Kayonza District, the new market being built is in line with city design plans and will also help entrepreneurs develop. The first phase of the market's construction will include the construction of a 2-story building with 70 trading plots. The second phase will include the addition of 2 more floors. The entire market will cost approximately 3.2 billion Rwandan francs, which has been budgeted for in the Kayonza's fiscal year 2022-2023. We shall come back with economic items after the advertisement.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
Rwanda's exports in value have increased by 37.2% in the first 6 months of 2022, mainly driven by strong domestic manufacturing activities and the opening up of borders in line with economic recovery. The overall export receipt mounted to $708.3 million, up from $516.2 million a year earlier. This was announced during the presentation of the Monetary Policy and Financial Stability Statement by the Central Bank that assessed the economic performance of the first half of the year and prospects for the rest of the year. John Rwangombwa, Central Bank Governor, said the growth is attributed to the increase in manufactured goods exported in the region through World Food Programme to South Sudan, Kenya and Uganda. On the other hand, the imports into the country also grew by 22.5%, amounting to $1,817 million in the same period, linked to domestic recovery of the economy. The exports being against imports has consequently widened the trade deficit by 13.7% in the period under review. Besides the lingering effects of the pandemic in supply chains, the governor pointed at the continued rise in global commodity prices that has weighed heavily on the economy of the country. However, the central bank figures indicated that domestic food production reduced by 1.2% in the first half of the year due to poor weather conditions. The annual inflation is projected to be at 12.1%. However, Rwangunga said that it will oscillate within the central bank's bound between 2 and 8% against a benchmark of 5%. The Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report of today. Today's trading session remained quiet as no transactions were recorded on both the equities and fixed income markets. The income markets closed with Bralirwa at 170 Rwandan francs, Bank of Kigali at 272 Rwandan francs, I&M Bank at 43 Rwandan francs, Simirwa at 120 Rwandan francs, M10 Rwanda at 176 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.5 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.7 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.44 and the selling price was 0.45. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.26 and the selling price was 0.27. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 and the selling price was 0.5. The US dollar buying price was 1,029 and the selling price was 1,050. The British pound buying price 1,156 and the selling price 1,180. The euro buying price is 1,011 Rwandan francs and the selling price 1,031 Rwandan francs.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
African leaders are using the United Nations General Assembly to push for an end to a decade-long Western embargo against Zimbabwe, arguing that the sanctions are hurting ordinary people and the region. The African Union chairperson and Senegalese President Macky Sall laid the charge when he delivered his address at the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly, where he said the sanctions should be removed immediately to enable Zimbabwe to realize its full potential. Macky Sall's impassioned plea was echoed by leaders from Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Africa in their addresses. A Tanzanian film has been nominated for an Oscar under the Academy Award, ending a 2-decade wait for the country's participation in the award. The film Vuta Nkuvute, which means hard struggle in Swahili, has been shortlisted in the Best International Film category at the 95th Academy Awards. Released in Swahili and with a predominantly African cast, the film tells the story of a young Indian Zanzibari woman whose romance blossoms on the back of a political revolt in the last days of the British imperial rule. South Africa has signed the first 3 of a series of agreements with independent producers to supply wind energy amid worsening blackouts in the continent's most industrialized economy. The coal-dependent country picked 25 wind and solar projects to generate a total of 2,583 megawatts, a boost of roughly 4.5% on current capacity. South Africa's state-owned power utility Eskom, which has for decades held a monopoly on power production and distribution, currently generates a daily average 26,000 megawatts of electricity against the national demand of 32,000 megawatts. The National Statistics Agency said in a report earlier that electricity production dipped by 7.7% in July compared to the same time last year. A Nigerian court has ordered lecturers at public universities to call off a strike over salary issues that have dragged on for 7 months and disrupted classes during the process. The lecturers are demanding higher pay, and several negotiations with the government have not yielded any positive results, which forced President Buhari's administration to approach the National Industrial Court. In an interim ruling, Judge Polycarp Herman said the lecturers should go back to work until the case brought by the government was finalized. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.